Welcome to the Deer Hunter Podcast, a platform created to entertain, educate, and evolve the modern-day deer hunter. Too big of an introduction piece for you. I assume that most guys that listen to the hunting podcasts, well, I know just from looking around that most of the guys that listen to them listen to most of, if not all of them. And obviously, the Gritty Bowman was and still is an extremely popular podcast. And now you have your own, but it's Aron Snyder. And you are, what's your official title now at Kifaru?
The CEO and president, chief designer, and I also do the marketing as well.
So you're wearing a couple different hats over there?
Well, I've always been, R&D and design and marketing. And just as Patrick's retired, I took over as CEO and president. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, I wonder how the hell you possibly find the time to get everything done, because I see you're out in the field a lot.
I only sleep about 3 hours a night.
Honestly, consistently.
Yeah, literally. I only sleep 3 hours a night. Yeah, you get a lot done. I just sleep fast.
You're able to function like that long term, or at least for now, huh?
It's been like that for a long time, 3 to 5, Sometimes, occasionally I'll get 6, but on average it's 3 to 4. Last night I got about 3.5. So you can watch on social media, I answer questions at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's not, because I woke up and answered a question, went back to bed. I get up between 2 and 3 pretty regularly, sometimes earlier, but then I get to the gym by 3, and work out, and then get to work around. I want to work out for about a half hour, and then get to work about 4:30, and then I usually bounce out of work between noon and 2, and then go home. Sometimes I'll take a nap, and then and then we go usually shoot for 45 minutes to an hour, and in the middle of that I'm answering questions and emails or typing up articles, and then we do cardio around 5. When the weather's nice. It is not nice today, so I'm heading to the gym again.
Yeah, I was curious about that. It's been kind of dog shit weather here for springtime in Michigan, it's been getting sunny out, but it's been 28 degrees and hasn't been very pleasant to do anything outside. I was wondering what Colorado's like this time of year, but
good and bad. It was 65 yesterday, and it's going to snow tonight, so it's kind of weird this time of year.
Right on. Can we go back just a little bit here? For people, I've followed you for a couple of years now, like I said, through the Gritty Bowman, through your podcast. I mean, I have a pretty good idea of who you are and what you've done, what you've accomplished, and how you've got to where you are now. But I think your story's kind of interesting because kind of showcases what hard work and persistence can, the American dream's still very much alive. You worked in the trades for years, and I guess you grew up in Oregon. Am I correct?
Yep. Yeah, I was in a small town in Oregon, Detroit Lake. It's a couple hundred people, and then I joined the Army when I was pretty young, and then I was in the Army for a few years, and then I got out. Didn't really know what I was going to do. I knew I didn't want to be a cop, but that's kind of what, something like that was really fit. It just, I didn't have the right temperament for the trade. And I was working at an archery range kind of part-time, and a guy came in at Kevin Kavanaugh. He runs a huge commercial glass company. And his brother-in-law was like a 4-star general. And he kind of took pity on me and hired me right there for the trades for commercial glazing. And then I kind of worked my way up from there, and ended up doing well. I was a project manager and anyway, a bunch of other stuff. But, honestly, the only reason why I never got fired is I was good enough at my job that I could take a lot of time off. So, most trades, if you take 3 months a year off or 2 months a year off, they're probably going to fire you. But I was able to weasel my way around and take quite a bit of time off, in the trades, work side jobs, be able to afford to hunt. And I've been married 3 times, so it's not like there's not sacrifice and, probably selfish, I guess, I mean, too much, too much time in the field, can definitely hurt a relationship. So but it was good for me. I mean, when I first started kind of getting on forums and everything, I didn't even have a cell phone or, a computer until 2000, 8 or 9. And the only reason why I did then is I got, where I was a project manager at a glass company and, I had a computer there, obviously. And anyway, I was on forums for a while and, kind of testing out gear because I guess, reading maybe some of the stuff I was reading wasn't really believable. I mean, a lot of people are full of shit, I guess. So anyway, I tested a lot of gear and posted my thoughts on forums and a bunch of other different stuff. And maybe in 2010 or 11, I went into Kifaru to try one of their backpacks out and took a few tries. Finally got to meet Patrick, got one of their backpacks. And, fast forward, now I'm the CEO of the company. So, yeah, I mean, Patrick adopted me as his son, and I look at him as a father and, look out for his daughters, or at least try and help as much as I can at the company. In the midst of that, obviously, I've done a lot of other stuff. I started Rock Slide with a couple other guys, the website, wrote articles for several different magazines, and really I just was in the field more than anyone else, 150, 180, 200 plus nights a year, and able to gain knowledge from that maybe a lot of other people or that kind of in-depth knowledge didn't have. I mean, some people do, but most don't. So if I talked about, gear, it was probably a good idea. I had a decent background on it, and I've always been the one that tries everything. Even though I got bashed a little bit about that, about jumping around different stuff, I kind of always looked at it, if I don't wear First Light, Sitka, Cryptic, ASAT, whatever, if you don't wear them all, how can you say one of them's better than the other? Or, and you get that shit a lot in this day and age. So,
I understand that, and it's one of the reasons why I've enjoyed what you do and the platform that you do with Kifaru Cast so much, is because you're willing to do that. And I understand the premise behind guys that are, they're getting funded by a company to represent that company and, essentially market that product. So it seems like the last thing they want to do is talk about a competitor's gear. But in my eyes, and maybe it's just more that I pay a little closer attention to it, or I'm in sales and marketing myself, so I sniff it out. But yeah, if you're not trying everything and honestly reviewing like the competitors' products, who are you to tell me what's better? Like when you get into like even something as simple as a broadhead debate online, and then a guy says, well, this is the best broadhead, and I post a picture of a broadhead, and I said, have you ever shot this? No, but I wouldn't. But it's like, well, you haven't even tried it. How could you tell me that it's, no good? I don't understand that. But people get allegiance pretty quickly to like a brand, right?
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, you get like, there's different ways I don't have any problem with somebody getting monetarily compensated by a company they already believe in.
Sure.
I'm down for that. The cool thing is, like, one thing I have to say, with Sitka and First Light, I wear them both, and they're both, I don't know that they're happy I'm wearing both, but they're both like, well, we're just glad that you like both of them and you speak intelligently about both and you don't feed people full of shit. And the same thing, like we tried to do a broadhead, comparison the other day, and it really wasn't like one was bad. It was, trying to get the point across. It really isn't a bad bow or necessarily, I mean, you got to look pretty hard to find a bad broadhead. It's more what's applicable for each setup, each animal, each system. I mean, in my opinion anyway, like there's no bad bows on, you know, it's pretty hard to find a bad compound bow anymore because they'd be out of business.
Right.
You know, as far as broadheads go, like, like for me, the component wise, you know, I was having issues with the skinny, so that Valkyrie system was kind of like a godsend for me because it just flat out, you know, performed well. As far as the broadhead, that Jaeger broadhead's great. You know, I like it, but it's not like there's not going to be other broadheads that don't do really well. It was more the I mean, that center pin on the Jaeger is what makes that Jaeger great. The broadhead's great, but I mean, that was kind of what we were trying to talk about in this podcast we did with you know, the different broadheads, explaining, you know, there's going to be a bang for the buck, right? There's going to be one that may not be perfect in every way, but not everybody has the money to buy perfect, you know, the most state-of-the-art broadhead.
Right.
There's going to be a durability section where, you know, one's going to win out over durability, but in the case of like the cutthroat broadhead, you know, that thing's extremely durable, but it doesn't have a big cutting diameter. So it may penetrate more, but it's not going to bleed.
Right.
International. Please leave your name, number, and a brief message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
About that.
That's
Where'd you
okay.
lose me?
I got you. No, you were just talking about the, you know, the cutting diameter on the cutthroat versus, I think, you know, the Valkyrie, how they each have pros and cons, right?
Yeah, all of them do. So, you know, and I mean, it's not, for example, I mean, while we're going down this wormhole, you know, I mean, you've seen, shot a pile of bows, right? Like and I'm a one bow guy once I figure out what the hell I actually want to do. So, you know, I'm shooting all these different bows trying to figure out the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And man, it ended up Black Widow. I shot literally a score that was so unbelievable on Sunday at a 3D course that if it was for money, I would have been scared to turn in the score. It was that good. And that bow just is part of it. But that bow's not the best for everyone, right? It's best for me right now. It may be the best for me the rest of the time, but I mean, it's not. I mean, I get super irritated about when guys say the best, because that is such a broad, you know, term that, you know, you can, I mean, one man's shit's another man's gold, right? Like, I love that bow, and it's the best bow I've ever shot, but you could pick it up and be like, man, that doesn't fit me, the grip, whatever, right? So that kind of stuff I get irritated at pretty quickly.
No, I completely understand that. Did you, going back to when you were talking about being in the trades and kind of making a move out of that, had you known consciously for a while that you were, I mean, were you pursuing to be in, like, working in the hunting, I'll say, industry, or was it just something that one day you're like, oh, maybe this will work out?
You know, I wouldn't say maybe necessarily the hunting industry. My goal was just to spend as much time after I got divorced from my daughter's mother, you know, it was kind of a regrouping in life and losing a lot of, like, I wasn't left with much. And, so I kind of set my entire life up with really no bills and to just be able to, I've never been money driven, but I certainly was less money driven and lifestyle driven.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal was to live a lifestyle, whether it meant work in the trades for 6 months and hunt for 6 months, or you know, work in the outdoor industry. It was more of a broadsword goal of just finding, not to sound weird, like peace in life of a specific lifestyle. And along the way, I got where, you know, I kind of found out I was pretty good at designing outdoor gear and had a decent knack for you know, ideas, and I sold a few designs. But really what happened is I was in the trades and I kind of demoted myself. It was like a group decisions, you know, owner from being the, basically running the company. to kind of being like a lead tech where I drove around and I'd spot check jobs and work on Herculite doors, like whatever. Anyway, help guys lay out curtain walls. And I was helping heave up a piece of glass into a scissor lift. I ripped my bicep off. And, so I was down at home for 3 months, I guess, where I wasn't working. And that was like a time when I really started to take a pretty good assessment of, is this possible? Can I do this? Can I work out in the outdoors full time? And Kifaru had put me on kind of a percentage basis as like a sales rep sort of at that time. I sold 3 designs, which I'm under a non-disclosure. I can't go into detail, but I sold 3 designs, and I got quite a bit of money for those to backpacking companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I got like a settlement, there's a standard settlement if you rip an arm off or rip a bicep off. So I got a settlement from that. And so I thought, well, it's now or never. So I never went back to work in the trades. And I literally, the owner of the shop was pissed because they'd been on a huge school and got it, and they had planned on me running it. And when they went to release me, the lady on the phone from the Pinnacle Assurance, the insurance company, was like, "Hey, you're going to be released in a week to go back to full duty, great recovery." And I said, "Hey, am I going to get in trouble if I don't go back?" And she said, "No, of course not." And we talked for a while. She's super cool. And I said, "Look, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to kind of follow my dream here." And people that still work at that glass shop, specifically Aaron Moody is a guy that is working there now, and he's like, "Man, you did it. You followed your dreams, and you made it happen." And for a guy that barely graduated high school, and wasn't overly hardworking in school at all, at book smarts, dude, you put enough hard work into anything and enough drive and desire, you can accomplish almost anything. And I just knew if I worked hard enough that I could probably find something that would put me in a very, very happy place, and I found it. It's just kind of a miracle how it all just happened.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm a touch bit envious.
International. Please leave your name, number, and a brief message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
You there?
Yeah, man.
Shoot, sorry about that. Good Lord.
That's okay. You're pushing electronic devices to their limits, huh?
Well, I don't know. Honey, how long did that phone just go off? So I was only gone for an hour out of the day just now, and I don't know. I probably had 90 to 100 alerts.
That's insane.
Oh, yeah. I had to go get my backup phone. I don't know what the hell's wrong with this thing, but it was kind of losing service, I think I just have beat it up too much. I've got kind of a field phone and a normal phone. But anyway, yeah, sorry about that, man.
That's okay. I'm just looking here. Yeah, we're good. Everything's recording. So, yeah, if you remember where... Do you have time to finish this up, or...
Oh, yeah. No, we're good.
Okay, just making sure. I know you said you had some stuff going on. So, yeah, I was just saying, I was never exposed to Western hunting or anything other than, you kind of go to a deer blind and you sit there and you wait for them to come to you. And, then you had asked how old I was, and I was just in the middle of saying, I'm 34 years old now, and I've been I started hunting on my own when I was 12, so 22 years now, and I feel like in the last year I've learned more than I did in those first 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it due to, being able to follow podcasts and read forums and just pay attention to what other people are doing online.
Yeah.
So, when I found out that, I could implement some of that in the way that I hunt, just for instance, one track of state forest that I grew up hunting around is 100,000 acres. So I could do some exploring there. And then if I go up to the UP, there's millions of acres of public land that I can get out on. And so I kind of really dove into backpack hunting the last 2 seasons, but I'm extremely green on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not in the UP. It's not like I'm an expert at that, but it's kind of a pass-fail thing, which I always like better. It's kind of a one and done thing for kind of the primary rules, or at least it is to me. There's certain things you learn pretty quickly, which looks like you've picked it up pretty quick, and totally different world from out west where you really are dealing with more elevation and things like that. Where with you, how many people do you see much pressure in the UP at all for hunting?
You can get away from it, is what I'm finding out. I never did that. I hunted a lot of private property, which I'm finding out had way more pressure than most of the public land that surrounds me. But the ability to hike, 1 or 2 miles into a swamp or whatever really eliminates most of the places that I hunt. I haven't seen a person in years, so.
Yeah, no, well, and that really is what it's all about, in the grand scheme of things, I guess. Whatever each person wants in the adventure, but I definitely like getting away from people. I'm sure I'd be doing the same thing.
When I started this just a couple of years ago, I bought a $100 backpack at like a hunting expo, and I just thought, this will be a good way for me to introduce myself into this. It was a larger size pack. It was like 4,500 cubic inch, I believe, and I was able to get a lot of stuff in it, and that helped me kind of figure out what I needed in more detail. So, I figured out real quick that wasn't going to do what I needed to do. I actually never even got a deer and had to cut it up and put it in that bag, but I feared the day that I did because I was just waiting for, the straps to blow off of it and the thing to pretty much come undone. Where do guys start? Like if they've never owned a higher quality backpack, like from kind of identifying their own needs, knowing what size to look for, and how are they supposed to know what they need for a fit? I mean, I know you guys don't.
They probably won't even after they listen, but they'll have a little bit better grasp because there's going to be things. Your torso length is a big one, right? How tall is your back? The next thing's going to be as far as your waistline. Like, is it a one size fits all pack? And if you're super skinny or short for your weight, that's probably not going to work. So we have a bunch of videos, for people to learn how, but, on average, what would you say, what's the standard size guy up there, just as an example?
Ooh, a guy that's maybe 5'10" to 6 foot, 200 pounds average?
Yeah, so you look at like 5'10" to 6 foot, depending upon their pant length. Let's say they have an average, 32-inch inseam or so. Mm-hmm. Their torso length is going to be 18 to 20 inches, which is getting on the larger side of things. So where things get confusing is most people, it's getting better nowadays, but most people are used to shoulder carrying all the weight, meaning all the weight's on your shoulders when you go in. And people think that that's correct. I just did a podcast with Dudley where he was telling me this specific pack. Yeah, fit him. And it's like, if you don't know, you don't know. But like the whole idea is like 65% or so of the weight's supposed to be on your hips, not all on your shoulders. And so that's really where trying to get that point across to people, like, hey, packing it out on your shoulders is the wrong way to do it, where they've got so used to that.
Yeah, I gather that, and I noticed that right off the get, because even though my inexpensive pack that I was messing around with had a hip belt, it never, like the first time that I wore this out, I think I put, 30 pounds in it, and I went for like a 3 or 4 mile hike. Dude, the next day my hip flexors were they were wasted. Like I had never done any physical activity in my life before, and I guess it was just because I was not used to having that weight there. But I can see just even after like 6 weeks now that I can have a lot more weight in there, go a lot longer distances, and pretty quickly my hips adjusted and adapted to that weight.
Yeah. And I mean, you think about it, it's really, how would I put this? Like, it's all what you want to get out of it. If people aren't wanting to backpack in and, you're on private land and you're pretty close to the truck, or, load bearing is kind of out of the wind. It doesn't matter. Load carrying ability didn't really matter. But, if you're doing like what you're doing, where you're going in with your camp and your tree stand, public land, potentially, killing something and then coming out with all of it. Yeah, you don't have to be in like super comfort, but it certainly isn't going to hurt you in long-term durability of your body or overall happiness. And I mean, I try to compare it to, do you want AC and do you want heat in your car? I mean, if you don't need either, you're pretty tough, but it is nice having it. The different creature comforts, and that's how like we're able to do back-to-back backpack hunts and not be physically just beaten is because of the gear we're using. And so, the fit of it, the gear, obviously the long-term durability, things like that, the warranty, because eventually, especially packing tree stands, you're going to wear a hole in something. That's where we try to really focus on. And there's a price tag with that. 100% American made is expensive as well. We're with all American components, but our goal is to have a customer for life. Like we get a lot of guys that I would never pay that much money for a backpack, but they drive around a $75,000 diesel pickup and don't have anything to tow.
Yeah, I was just going to make the point that an $800 backpack nowadays is like 2 months truck payments for a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about,
1 month for some. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So break that down over the course of length that you're going to use this thing. You're talking pennies. So I always try to look at the cost versus investment. Like, what am I going to get back out of this? And I saw buying this. Like, a lot of people said that to me. They're like, dude, you're crazy. Like, for, as much as you're going to be able to use that here for what you're doing, it's not necessary. And my reply was, maybe it's not necessary for you, but maybe what I'm doing is a little bit different. And here's one point that I've made to guys too, is I hunt a lot in the swamp, okay? And like, I've had some deer that after said and done and they're butchered up and we're eating them, I'm like, dude, this thing's just, something's wrong here. This thing does not taste right, And now looking back on it, being younger and just thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't have drug it through swamp muck for, 3/4 of a mile. And then let it hang on a buck pole for, 2 days and marinate in that shit before I cut the thing up. Whereas now, it just makes a whole lot more sense to me to just process the thing in the field, get it into the backpack, and carry it out versus dragging it through the mud.
Right.
So it's all about what you want to get out of it.
Like, I don't need a lone wolf tree stand, and I'm not a big whitetail hunter, but that one is expensive because I only go to Kansas or Alabama. I mean, he's got them down there or wherever. But, I really liked the one I borrowed from a guy and years ago, and they had a great reputation and they were really durable and super easy to put up, and so I bought one. But I mean, Christ, the thing was $500. I think $489 for the sit and climb. So like, did I need it? No, and I could have bought a cheaper one. But I mean, it is nice knowing that what you're getting is arguably top of the line. I mean, definitely in the top three. I don't know. I'm not a tree stand expert. I don't know what the top tree stand is for a climber, but I like that lone wolf for packability.
Right. Well, it's changing rapidly. I think there's a growth or a resurgence of like public land hunting, DIY, and guys wanting to get out into bigger expanses of land, and a lot of guys that have been very successful hunting big whitetails on public land have created platforms where they're sharing that information and how they do it with guys, and a lot of it is first time sit. Like you're going in, you're sitting here the absolute first time. So a lot of guys are mobile hunting now, and a lot of companies are starting to put out more advanced tree stands. And I know there's a tree stand coming out this year that'll be available that's going to be over 2 times probably the cost of a lone wolf. But there's reasons for it, and I think the thing's going to sell like fire. It'll be a certain group of guys that are going to want it, but it just goes back to like what you were saying. There's details that this thing's going to have and it's going to offer that I don't think Lone Wolf has and can offer right now. So
is one of them like lightweight?
Yeah, one that's coming out. The sticks that will get you 20 foot high, and the stand is going to be 2/3 the weight approximately of what a Lone Wolf is right now. So it'll be huge value to guys that hike in far with tree stands, because boy, when I put a backpack on with gear in it to go out for even an overnighter, and then I strap a 12-pound tree stand and sticks to that, it's quite a bit of weight.
Well, and I mean, I think people pay anything for lightweight. I mean, I'm forced with the comfort thing and the lightweight thing and the durability thing every day with Kifaru of where do you draw the line of comfort and saving weight and durability? And if you can make something as lightweight, as durable, and as comfortable, people pay just about anything for it. I mean, our new frame, that's one reason it took so long to come out with it, was to try to get all of those things into one. And so I have no doubt if somebody came out with a, I don't know, whatever, hypothetically 8-pound climber, right? I mean, that's getting it into the Western hunting, backpacking in, side of things. Because, I mean, 8 pounds, especially if you're only going in a couple of miles, anybody will carry an extra 8 pounds if it's that much of an advantage.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I know it's probably going to be something that I'm going to be investing in, because I like the Lone Wolf a lot too, but it's just going through the swamps primarily. The sticks are a little long, no matter how I ever seem to package them on there, and from watching other guys do it too, it's hard to get through pretty much the nasty stuff and a lot of the country that we hunt. If you can walk through it in an upright position, typically anybody else is going to do that too, and that's not where you're going to find deer. A lot of times you're crawling and fighting through stuff, so something with a smaller profile and a little bit lighter is definitely going to be beneficial to me. So
yeah, go ahead.
I have an old aluminum API tree stand that I got from a yard sale, and the thing weighs, I don't know what it weighs, like 5 pounds, 4 pounds.
That's one of my favorite stands of all time, that one you've got in that picture.
Yep, it's an awesome tree stand. I scored it for $20 at a flea market and put new straps on it, and the thing's basically light as a feather, and it helps me to do what I need to do.
Yeah, well, I think that cost is relative, I guess, to how much of a benefit you get out of it. We've been working on a whitetail pack for carrying hang-ons and climbers and everything else, and even that is like, there's going to be a group of guys that are like, are you crazy? I would never pay whatever it is, $300 for the bag and $350 for the frame. But then there's other guys I know that would pay that in the blink of an eye if it makes their life that much easier. And that's me. I'll pay the money if it makes my life easier. The Valkyrie system's a good example of that. That's not exact. They're not giving that system away, but that system made my life easier. Camera gear. If there's something that gives me an edge in photography, I'll pay for it, within reason. And I may have to do side jobs and put in shower doors and shit that I don't want to do, but if it's going to make my life easier in the long run, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for like cost versus return or investment. If you buy something quality and it lasts you 10 years, or if you buy something that's half the price and you're like, oh, I'm going to go with this one, it's literally half the price, and it lasts you 2 or 3 years and then falls apart, who paid more?
Yeah, no, you're right. And I explain that to guys a lot that'll, they're like, oh, you came out with a new frame every 3 years. And I'm like, well, yeah, but if you paid $370 for your old frame and, you used it for 3 years and you sold it for $250, well, I mean, I wish my car rent was that cheap, or my car payment was that cheap, like crazy cheap. So, super high resale value on our stuff too. So.
Right on. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but I'm sure I know there's a lot of like Facebook groups and stuff dedicated to guys that resell that type of gear, and I suppose that there would be a market for that. When let me ask you this. Is there anything that guys need to look at, whether it's Kifaru, if they're looking at other things, if they've never bought a backpack before, what's some of the details that they need to look at? And I guess to be specific, I guess it would really depend on what they're looking to do with it. But let's just use this as an example, because I know a lot of people are in this situation. It's kind of the same one I am. Let's say they're looking at going out west to do a hunt for the first time. They're going to go to Colorado and do mule deer or do elk. There's a lot of options, right? I mean, it seems like every day there's more and more companies that are putting out backpacks. What's something that guys need to pay attention to so that when they do spend this money, they're not left in a situation where they basically get effed over?
Oh, no one's going to get totally, effed over. The big thing is going to be the fit, obviously. And again, like Kifaru or any of the other big players, it's kind of like a Swarovski's ice. You're not going to get screwed over from any of those companies. There may be one you like the other better, one better than the other, but you really want to look for, fit. Do you have pronounced hip bones? Are you a little bit short for your weight? Do you have a giant chest? Are you super short? Is that company going to be able to actually, truly, not bullshit, not call cuss, oh yeah, we can get it to fit, and actually fit you? And then 2 is going to be, okay, do they have some of the bags and, pockets and things like that I need? And then 3, how long's the company been in business? Have they stood the test of time? We get packs back and teepees back that are 15 years old. That's longer than most of our competitors combined. Meaning if you take, I won't name names, but if you take 3, let's say, of our primary competitors right now, we get packs back to repair that are older than all 3 of those companies are combined total. Well, that, we take good care of our customers. Our products last a long time. You want to look at that in companies. And then I would say the final thing is if the American made, if you're into that, that's not about getting screwed over. But if you want to buy Chinese shit, then yeah, go to Cabela's or Sportsman's Warehouse, grab a pack. It's made in China, guaranteed. Go rub some funk on it. But if you really, support American-made companies, all the big 3, what I consider the big 3 are made in America, and then obviously we're the only ones that are American-made components. If that's important to you, that's something else to look at.
Yeah, it's quite amazing that you guys are able to do that, really. I had no idea. The first time that I had spoke on the phone with you when I was talking about, looking at a backpack, I was under the impression that I could, come into Kifaru and they're going to be hanging there on the wall. I could pick one out and buy it and walk out of there. Well, that's not the process at all, right? You take measurements, you take an order, and the thing's custom built to your profile, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I wouldn't say totally custom. So what we'll do is, let's say if you call, well, this just happened earlier today. The guy called and he's 6'4" and 320 pounds. So we need to get him a custom 28-inch frame. He's pretty big upper body, so the shoulder straps aren't going to fit him, so we got to custom make those. He obviously is a bit girthy in the lower section, so we got to make that belt custom. So that's all pretty much custom. Now, and there's some extra stitching we'll throw on that in different places in Bartex. But let's say you come in and you're 5'10" and you're 175 pounds. The belt is going to be to your size. The shoulder straps will be adjusted to the correct length. The load lifter angle will basically adjust to the angle we feel is correct. Things like that. So, yeah, it's pretty. We definitely try and get it as perfect as we can.
Right. But are you housing? I mean, do you have an inventory, or is it something that comes in order basis?
We have a pile of inventory of bags. We have a pile of inventory of parts and pieces. It is assembled per person because of those shoulder straps and belts and things like that. The belts need to be built per your size, the shoulder straps. But the bulk pieces you can pre-build, we definitely pre-build those.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, well, obviously there's cost in that too, because I think a lot of companies, a good way to make money on products, right, is to make something that you can repeat making it an abundance of and then sell it. Whereas it's a lot different when you're making something per order.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. I mean, if you think about it, as far as it goes, like the pants wise are if you're ordering custom made pants, but you can have on those pants, you'll have, let's say, preset or pre-cut lengths, and you have pre-cut a ton of different pre-cut, I guess you would say, patterns, just to speed the process up a bit.
Sure.
It's kind of like that. And that's what we did it for, to just get shipping times down. Same process as before, we just do it ahead of time now.
Yeah, no, I understand that. What about size of the pack needed for like days in the field or what you're doing? Obviously, there's a variety of different sizes that you guys sell, all the way down to like a urban, which looks like, something like a day pack, to a pack that, I mean, I don't know, an extreme situations, I hear of guys going out for like multiple weeks, right, and not coming back and living out of that thing for a pretty extended period of time.
Not multiple weeks. I would say somebody feeling real froggy is going to make it 12 days. Maybe 0.0001% of backpack hunters can go 14 with what's on their back. For the most part, it's 5 to 7.
Okay.
Anybody tells you different is generally full of shit. There's just not many people that can go over 10. I'm not saying they're not out there. There's definitely people that can,
sure,
but not the vast number of shit you read on the internet.
Okay.
It's just not. But most are going to be, 2 weeks or less. I don't really know anybody I quite honestly don't know anyone that's gone over 2 weeks totally solo with what's on their back.
Gotcha.
Hunting, I know tons of people that do it, like the Pacific Crest Trail, things like that. You got to figure the amount of food you consume in 2 weeks. Think about that shit.
Right.
The pack would be giant.
No.
Like, I mean, freaking giant.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I go out for 2 days, and I'm like, man, can I fit a little more food in here? Like, just used to being able to have food, a refrigerator and cupboards. When you're living out of your pack, yeah, you're somewhat limited. So let's say a guy is looking to do like a kind of an entry level 2, 3, 4 day hunt, traveling out west, gonna have his have his whole camp on his back and everything. What do they kind of need to be looking for?
It'll depend on how lightweight their gear is. So if they have crappy gear and they're going to do, let's say, 3 to 4 or 5 nights, they're going to need a minimum of 5,000 cubic inches, because they're going to have a sleeping bag that probably doesn't compress very well, probably a jacket that doesn't compress, things like that, a bigger tent. So with good gear,
when I talk to someone. So with real good decent backpacking gear, I always say 5 days, 3 to 5 days, 5,000 to 6,000 cubic inches, really 4,500 to 6,000 as a rule of thumb. And I don't need a chuckle puppet send me a message telling me they did 10 days with a 3,500 cubic inch pack. I'm proud of you, and so is everyone else. This is general rules of thumb. So 3 to 5 days, yeah, somewhere around 5,000 plus or minus.
Okay.
Once you get into that, after, somebody's going to do 7 days, anything over 5, just plan on carrying 7,000 to 8,000 cubic inch packed.
Okay.
And this is average, with average to heavy gear.
Okay. Yeah, that's my pack's Mountain Warrior. Is it 4,750?
It's like 5,000.
Yeah, okay. Plus I have the lid on top of that, which gives me a little extra. And for what I do, I don't have great gear. The backpack was kind of my primary concern. Seemed like the biggest hole in my game as I got into this. So that was my spending and my upgrade for this year. And I hope to upgrade shelters and sleeping bags and all that stuff here in the future. But this seemed to be the most important to me to begin. And for me, for 2 days, that's I've got that thing stuffed pretty tight when I'm heading out there, and it's colder weather. I take a heat source, be it even like a little propane tank and a top to go on it, so that when I get up in the morning and it's 28 degrees, I can reach out of my sleeping bag and start that thing in my tent and at least warm up a little bit before I start my day. So I'm sure I'm taking some gear that's not like 100% necessary, but yeah, I guess agree with that. That 5,000 seems like a pretty good average number.
Yeah. Then again, I mean, plus or minus, some people go longer, some shorter.
Yeah, and then with your, is it called is it a Molex system? What's the term for the way that the clips and the bags? Molly? Yeah,
Molly webbing or Pal's webbing.
Okay. There's a lot of versatility in that too, as far as being able to strap gear, like a sleeping bag or a sleeping pad or something like that too, which gives you some added space, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you guys have a couple different options as far as like, what do you have? I think I saw a cargo net, and then the straps that I purchased that I use with my tree stands are a couple different things. I think I saw I saw a video yesterday where you're carrying around a 300-pound man on your back in what looked like a diaper.
That's what I call it. It's a grab it, but it looks like a diaper. It's a beaver tail is what also is known as. It didn't help that Mike's 300 pounds, so it really accentuated the grab it / diaper portion of it.
Yeah, it did look a little Brazilian cut on him. That was quite impressive from the fact that that was a question that I had for you to ask, like, what is the maximum capacity that anyone's ever tested these packs to, and the fact that you could walk around with that guy hanging off your back like that. But I couldn't see a situation where anybody's trying to load anything over 300 pounds ever, right?
No. And I've carried, like, my moose, and I didn't have to carry it very far. That was that 250 plus range. I mean, it's going to be able to carry as much or more than, pretty much anybody can handle. So durability is not an issue. I mean, we tested this shit for a couple of years before we even come out with it.
Gotcha. Good deal. I had a guy message in today. He was actually, he asked me if I would ask you when I talked to you. I saw you guys ran maybe a promotional thing, or you had a limited supply of megatarps, and he was asking if he missed that today, if they would be available.
Are gone.
Yep.
No, those will not be.
Won't be available again?
No.
Gotcha. Okay. Another listener submitted question here is a guy said that he'd wondered if you had ever dealt with this. He got into some poison oak or poison ivy in the oil, got into the bag, and he's washed it a couple times, and he's like having flare-ups when he puts this thing back on. Have you ever experienced anything like that? And is there a method to get that shit out of there?
I did with clothing, man. Google is a powerful thing. I can't remember what the hell it was that Google told me to do, but it worked. Because Brian didn't do it, and he let his uncle or cousin Ben use it, and uncle or cousin Ben got poison ivy, and I never got it again.
Right on. Tactical versus hunting frame, 2 options. Well, 3 options now. Will you be discontinuing your existing frames, or will you be replacing those with the newer models?
We'll probably discontinue the hunting frame. Nothing's ever set in stone. We just can generally, see the future on that because, guessing that the new frame will kill the sales of it. That if we were buddies and hanging around the campfire, I would be telling you the reality of it is people put such a, what am I trying to say here? If you called me and you didn't know the difference, right? You didn't know tactical or hunting, and you'd been wearing a pack that's subpar, you're going to be so freaking happy with whatever you've got. You're not even going to know there's a difference. You're not going to know. But since we have the internet right now, and people obsess over ounces and weight, which isn't a bad thing, that there's we make multiple options for that reason. So if you're a guy packing a tree stand and training and things like that, that tactical frame may be a better option. If you're a guy, well, I can tell you what happens. If you come out here with me and you're like, hey, I want to go on a backpack hunt, and we go just straight balls deep, 6, 7, 8 miles in, gaining 5,000 feet in elevation, just an ass kicker. I guarantee when you come back, your main priority won't be to get in better shape, won't be to go on a better diet. You're actually getting online, you're finding out how to cut weight. Guaranteed. Happens every day, every year, every minute. Where that's a good idea to learn to cut weight for sure, but you can buy that. There's no hard work put into cutting weight by money. Well, maybe hard work at your job. Where there's a line that should never be crossed, in my opinion, because I've crossed it, to save weight. And when you cross that line, you can put yourself in, maybe not jeopardy, maybe jeopardy, certainly put yourself in bad positions and a lot of amount of discomfort to save a few ounces. And so, kind of going a rabbit hole here, but when you talk about frames, if you're talking about saving 3 to 4 ounces, sometimes it's 100% worth it. Other times, it may not be. And that's when talking about like tactical or hunting. You go lightweight, it's going to flex a little bit more, for one. So you may not like that. You may want the tactical for those reasons. Let's say you're hunting in extremely hot weather. You may not want the tactical frame. You want to get to new light or ultralight because it ventilates better. We tried to space them out enough where it's an easy decision.
Gotcha. So
did that answer your question?
Weight and strength. Yeah, no, it did. Weight and strength being the primary differences between them, correct?
Yeah, weight, and I wouldn't say strength for load hauling, but more flexibility. There's going to be more flex in one than the other.
I gotcha. And then I had a guy ask me, if the stays were carbon fiber or aluminum, and I told him exactly what it says on the website. It's that they're composite, and he said, what is that composite? I said, I don't know, and I don't know that anybody's allowed to, but I'll ask.
Yeah, you are. Hell, it's on the website. You just got to read it. It's Brazilian ironwood and carbon laminated together.
Okay.
So composite, in a simplification term, is more than one material.
Sure.
So all it is the carbon, which has been found with other companies, cracks. Unless you get it so beefy that it's heavier than another option that's cheaper anyway. So what we did is that Brazilian ironwood covers the carbon or makes it durable. We've had 2 stays break. One's from me lifting it on a video to show it can be broken, but it takes an obscene amount of strength. And then another one a horse trampled on. It was leaning up against at an angle on a log. and a horse. So what's a horse weigh? 1,600 pounds.
Yeah, I don't know.
The horse reared up on its rear legs and slammed down on one of the carbon fiber stays brake. That's the only two out of probably 10,000 we've ever broken.
Yeah, I was not pretty impressed. I was really impressed to see how thin that material build was on those. And they just don't. They don't. I mean, I guess they do flex under a heavyweight load. I haven't had more than 70 pounds in my bag yet, but man, they don't move much. They're
not much. Think about a bow limb. That's basically what that is. I mean, we patented it, but
right.
You take a bow limb, it's laminated. Think how stiff that bow limb is to try and flex.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like an 80-pound bow limb.
Right.
Now think about if you cut that down to 3/4 wide and 26 inches tall, it's still going to be stiffer than woodpecker lips, but it's going to be crazy, crazy durable. And I mean, how often do you hear about bow limbs break compared to how many bows are sold?
Right.
Especially on a trad bow. Not very often, especially when they're, glued together, built correctly. So that's, snowboard, bow limb, skis, same basic principle of how they're laminated together or glued together.
I got you. Okay. Is there anything that you want to touch on the new frame or you got a couple new packs out too, right? And it looked like a couple of them would be really good options maybe for Midwest whitetail guys that aren't looking to go do like days in the woods. Was it called the Urban Ruck?
Yep, the Urban Ruck. And I mean, what we're doing as a company is trying to fill gaps, whether it's a gap that Frank and I need filled or Patrick would have filled or not. We're trying to fill those voids but make them versatile. So the Door Gunner is an everyday carry pack, basically is what it was initially designed for, to carry a pistol or a knife or multiple. Have it concealed, but wear it around town and be able to get to it quickly. We quickly found out that it works damn good in a tree stand. Works good for a lot of different things. Some guys strap it to their frame. The Door Gunner was named after a buddy of ours who was a Marstock guy who was a door gunner, and when we gave him one to screw around with, he was like, dude, this would have been perfect when I was a door gunner. And he had spent his first few years in the Marines as a door gunner. He's like, I just needed this, and this. Well, then I tried it mule deer hunting in eastern Colorado, and it was perfect because it was so low profile for a stalking pack, and it had just enough room for me to put enough crap in there to get by if I got jammed up or pinned down. It was great. So then we had guys that run 14ers, ultra marathons, well, maybe not ultra marathons, but like long distance running, skiers. All those were like, this thing's perfect. So, we initially, designed that Door Gunner for an everyday carry pack. Just wear to the gym, wear around town. Totally became something super versatile. One of the other things, the whitetail pack that we're working on, hopefully that, in the next couple months, that'll be released. And as we designed that, I'm like, man, we're going to sell the shit out of these elk hunters, or backpack hunters, because the way it was built allows you to drop the frame totally and just wear this, kick-ass day pack that's plenty of room to make a decent first loadout. The suspension sucks on just the pack. It's not made to be like a load hauler, but it'll get you by until you get to your frame. That has a lot of, options initially that were, if you didn't know, were for a tree stand because of the different sizes and areas that, where it's screw-in tree steps, or your quiver can strap on the pack when you're in the tree stand, the way it opens, things like that. But then you take your whitetail-minded person out of it and look at it, it's like, wow, that's a kick-ass actually backpacking pack for people that don't like to hunt with a frame on. We've got a lumbar pack we're coming out with that we've been working on for like a year, off and on, because we just keep getting busy. And it's just a big fanny pack. It's a lumbar pack, but it's a void we haven't filled. And with all the feedback and people pestering us about what they want, we were able to kind of knock it out of the park. So, but we're a small family-owned and operated company, so we don't try not to drink through a fire hose very often, so we try to space these things out as we can.
Yeah, I gather that. But I saw that Urban, too, and I think were you guys using that in your whitetail hunt in Alabama?
Yeah, we were going back and forth between that and the Ontario. Mostly just kind of differences or whatever. Obviously, normal testing, going back and forth. So yeah, and Amy, my fiance, she's not into hunting at all, but she goes backpacking with me all over the place, and on some hunts I wouldn't have any issue bringing her. She wouldn't want to go on the actual hunting portion, but to get there, if there was crap for her to do for a couple 3 days, I wouldn't have any issue, bringing her along. She eats all the different game we bring back. I just knows that she's overly thrilled to go watch an arrow fly through one and have it tip over, but the other part she likes. So
yeah, it's gonna be an experience for my wife this year. She's never really, like I said, she's went out a couple times with me and she wasn't too intrigued by it, but the more mobile, getting out and actually making an event out of it has her definitely more interested. So we'll see how it goes. We can get this wrapped up so that you can get on with your evening and get done what you need to get done. But I wanted to ask you a couple things about whitetails, and particularly that Alabama hunt. I know that you've hunted all over. I mean, I'm not misspeaking, right? You've hunted all over the world, haven't you?
yeah, I mean, for the most part, not every part of the world, but yeah, I mean, I've had a couple drinks, seen a couple things for sure. I've gotten to hunt a lot of different places, including whitetail. I've been lucky to hunt multiple states for whitetail as well. So yeah.
How does that hold up for you? Like, obviously it seems a lot more extreme in my eyes when you're out for multiple days and you're way up in the mountains and you're going on like a goat hunt or an elk hunt or a high country mule deer hunt versus when you're sitting in that tree stand in Alabama and you hear a buck grunt and you look over your shoulder. Is like the adrenaline factor still there for you, or is it just kind of something to pass time?
Probably more for... No, hell no. It's probably more from a tree stand. Especially with the recurve in my hand. A lot different story with the compound because I can reach out and touch them a bit further away. But I told Frank, I was like, dude, you've never hunted in a tree stand. You will be addicted. And he sure shit he said, man, you were right. He said, I never thought I would have liked that ever. And I mean, people are like, I can't believe Aron Snyder is going to hunt from a tree stand. It's like, man, I've been hunting in a tree stand for, what is it, 2018, so I don't know, 16 years. Not a long time, but long enough. And for me, it's a totally different tactics, strategies, totally different feeling. I mean, how often do you get to watch something come in from 100 yards away and, from an elevated position, can't move more than a foot, right?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much stuck there compared to, you're on the ground, you can move, you can screw it up a lot easier too. But yeah, it's just, I wouldn't take away, it would be hard for me to pick one. Like if I could hunt in the Golden Triangle, every year, or if you said, oh, Aron, you got to give up spring bear. My ass is not hunting spring bear anymore. I'm killing something in a Golden Triangle. Like I like whitetail hunting in a tree stand and a ground blind. I mean, I like them both.
Yeah, I just wondered, if the whole experience, the backpacking and being miles deep, if it just added that much to it. But I mean, that's a huge reason why I do it. I still, and until I lose the fact that, I can't replicate the adrenaline thrill that I get even just, and I say even just, but that's the wrong way to even phrase it. But I just like going out and hunting deer, shooting does, whatever it is. I get a huge thrill from it. But I wondered after, you're involved with the kind of extremes that you've been at, if it, was something to pass time or something that you felt the same about.
Oh man, I'm addicted to all of it, and it's a different beauty. I mean, it's gonna be hard to compare to the beauty of the wilderness and the experience and the physical beating and everything else. It just happens to be, by the time whitetail rut rolls around, my ass is tired of getting beat up and I'm ready to sit in a tree and sleep on a bed. So I get different adrenaline from it. I get different things out of it. But I can tell you, I don't know that my heart's ever pounded as much as, watching a big buck come in when you're in a tree stand. But I've also, I don't know how many elk I've shot, but it's a pile of them. I've also shot a lot of elk and mule deer, and that, more than whitetail. So, yeah, that probably has something to do with it too. I couldn't pick one. I'm probably answering this horribly, but
no.
Yeah, I like them both.
No, it's good to know. I plan on coming out west at some point in time. I know, we talked before that I'm a friend of Ray Bickle, and I know you know him, and he has a Kifaru pack, and he'd asked me about coming out to Colorado this September with him, and it just doesn't look like I'm going to be able to swing it with the time frame that he wants to go. But boy, it would have been great to start getting my feet wet in that direction. But I feel like that's part of the reason why I've taken it upon myself to start hunting just locally, even like this, is that when I do go out west, I don't want to just jump on forums for a year and then buy all my stuff and then go out there and find out that I have no idea what I'm doing. So at least I'll feel like I have some level of experience before I start traveling.
Yeah, it's not as expensive as I think people might think it is. It probably is initially, and that's easy for me to say because I live out here. But the big thing is that initial plunge, and obviously the tags are ridiculous at $400 or $500, which is crazy. But once you do it and it gets in your system, it'll be amazing what you'll beg, borrow, steal, and sell off to go the next year. Or at least that's been my experience talking to guys. I'm obviously extremely fortunate living here and being from, the western United States, where, I get to shoot, a minimum of one elk, usually two, and a lot of times 3 or 4 a year, amongst many other animals. But as I said before, it'd be hard for me to not hunt whitetail somewhere every year too. So all of them are pretty addictive.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So I told you, James Orr has become a pretty good friend of mine, really. We talk weekly on the phone, and last week he invited me out to Oregon next year to go hunting, and I thought it would be hard for me to sell my wife on that, and it might be something I'd be able to do here in a couple of years, but my wife's like, well, let's go. Like, we'll make a family vacation out of it. We'll do our own thing for a couple days, and you can go hunt. So, I don't know. I might be venturing out to Oregon next year to do some hunting, do some elk hunting with him.
He's on the wet side.
That's what he
like
said.
Literally wet side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he described.
Be prepared for your feet to grow webbed.
Right.
And, triple canopy old growth forest, mushrooms, and elk that don't call back very often. No, that's where I'm from originally. So, but it sounds like he's pretty successful. He kills elk. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. So, well, cool, man. I greatly appreciate you taking time to do this tonight, and I really appreciate what you guys put into the Kifaru cast and all the information that you're putting out there for people to listen to. It's a great value to the the hunting community in general. So.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, and thanks for having me on. Definitely thanks for the support on Kifaru cast and Kifaru as well.
For sure, man. Anytime. So, yeah, maybe in the future can have you back on and we could go a little deeper into, like, what needs to be in your pack and how you choose other gear and things of that nature. So.
No, sounds good, man. Just let me know and I'll get it fit in the schedule.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Yep, take it easy.
All right.